The book of First Thessalonians chapter 5, on is verse 18. It's a good chapter, regardless. But I'm just trying to get to the point. Salaki, I said Romans. First Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 18, and it reads, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of the Most High in Christ Yahushua concerning you." I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to call Elohim like Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kodash, double honors to the elders, to the apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim, across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives, as well as the freedom to do so. Now more so than ever, shalom to the Akim and Aqua, to listening and learning world, willingly dissatisfied. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations. Who subscribe to this truth to you, I say shalom. So brother Yahweh coming at you with another lesson through the Spirit, through the power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. Yahweh meaning he is, he exists, or he to be. Ba'ashem, Ba'az, in, the Hashem's name. Yahushai meaning he saves, or he delivers. True names of the Most High God and the Son. These people ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, but whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. This lesson is inspired by, I was meditating and listening to certain videos and certain things that elders, Akim, men that do this work, I believe in faith and sincerity. They made mention of, and I'm not saying that, I'm responding to something they said because they said it and it's regarding me. It just, I had my, little spit shine to it or whatever, my 2 cents or my 1 cent or my, my penance. I'm saying the wrong word. I don't know where that came from. Thinking about in scriptures where you had that older lady that pretty much, what was it, a mint? I can't think of it. Was basically she basically was tied, and pretty much the Messiah was like, well, she put the most, and there was, whatever she put was like the least amount of money physically in, their money system, the Roman money system. But most Yahushua said pretty much she had tied it the most because of the fact that was all she had, so she gave it out of faith, and she gave all she had. And that's how you're supposed to confront this truth. This is how you're supposed to approach this truth. You're supposed to give it your all. I was listening to something that some brother said, it's just deep because, again, sometimes the scriptures can uplift you. Sometimes they can cut you, what I mean? It might not be a brother personally pertaining to you. That'd be the spirit. Lord, funny. But, yeah, I was thinking about some brothers said, they were talking about jobs, and, two particular brothers made two different points. I just recently spoke on the job, and like I said again, this is not saying it's a response to nothing that nobody say. I'm about to actually stop doing it, Lord willingly, but everything's of the spirit. But it's these two squirrels that have been coming over here for like, I don't know, last couple of weeks. They just playing archery. The other day, one of them picked up some food and just dropped the shit right in front of them. It's spiritual. Like, I don't want to call her my Eve because, like I said, we came to the conclusion, like I told her, I don't want a woman. But, she the closest thing I got to a Eve, right? And she was like, I had a dog that died, and I got another dog. It was spiritual, too, how he died. And then just, like, a lot of weird shit was happening. And, long story short, I got another dog. And she was talking about we bought him a doggy gate because this nigga just so curious and whatnot. And just, like, he think everything his. So, he knew how to open a lock. Like, he broke one of the locks, and then it was like she was like, she ain't never seen no shit like this happen because he like understands where the lock at. Now I'm at work most of the time, so I don't, I can't really observe him. I know he's not stupid. The dogs aren't stupid. That's why most people like dogs. You know what I mean? You can train the dog to do a lot of shit. Like them. What the fuck is them dogs called? They look like German Shepherds, but they, I think they like really bred in Austria. Like they use them in the military. The motherfuckers are literally like they run up buildings and shit, or they got them like tight roping. Like they very, very, very intelligent. But Salaki, I'm all over the place. Let me bring this back out again in the NLT. It says, "Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is the most will." Salaki, be thankful in all circumstances, for this is the Most High's will for you who belong to Christ Yahushua. And those that actually belong, those that are part of the marriage, has been to the marriage, that are part of the hopeful elect, they're gonna actually be grateful. You know, it took me years to actually start appreciating the Heavenly Father taking me through my trials and tribulations. And you see it in the scriptures, but you don't. You know, it's easy. A lot of things are easily said, more easily said than done. You know, this is not a shot at anybody. I was just thinking, you know, experience is a hell of a thing. I heard somebody make mention of that. You know, you can learn how to box and practice boxing all day, but it's only until you get in the ring that you actually apply what you learned. You know, and that's with anything. Just like with the trials and tribulations we're going through now, and you know, this walk we have going with the Lord. You know, the Lord is building us up for that time of Jacob's trouble. You know, for the coming persecution, for the hour of temptation. The Heavenly Father is building us up, and that's why we go through these different things. You know, and I just often think, you know, because the elder was saying a few different things. Like one brother was like, if you got a job, just be hateful. You know, you could be at Mickey D's, it could be a good job, bad job. You know, be grateful that you got a job. And trust me, I can completely relate. The Lord took everything away from me. I remember at one point, I couldn't even get a job. And, you know, that's for individuals that never had a job. But that ain't even true on that part. I know a brother that never had a job, or he didn't, more than likely he ran the streets. You know, he'll tell you, you know, but long story short, he was able to get a job. I remember the brother gave him the ability to use his vehicle to go find a job, and he found one. You got some men that actually, like I said, that's older, you know, and the thing about the truth is, you know, I've seen men that work their ass off, and I've seen men, for whatever reason, I won't say they had a slothful spirit. I just say, you know, it was a particular job one little brother used to always work. And I noticed that he couldn't work certain jobs, but he can work this job. So, you know, it could be personalities, it could be just a person's spirit. You know, it's like, I'm not a people person. I do better by working by myself, you know. I know that by myself because I'm, you know, again, very antisocial. You know what I mean? It don't take too much to say hello, or how you doing, but at the same time, like the elder brother say, you say hello, the motherfucker shoot you in the face. You know, that's one thing about Cleveland and New York. You know, like the elder brother was like, you know, where he from, they people often speak, you know, because they more of that down south, you know, energy as opposed to New York where it's more fast paced. And Cleveland's like that, you know. They call Cleveland the baby New York, right? The baby, how did they say it? That's New York is the big apple, Cleveland the little apple, and that's why Cleveland is mirrored after New York. You know, I didn't even realize that New York and Cleveland went to right. I didn't even know that because that's how much I don't watch basketball things. But you know, again, Spears is a teacher, you know, and you know, it's not fun suffering. Suffering is not a fun thing. It doesn't feel good. You know, again, especially in the truth, when you see brothers, they not catching hell like you catching it, and somebody might try to give you a little comfort, you know, but some people might be completely oblivious, you know. And I ain't saying as men, you know, we, you know, you supposed to comfort a female probably gonna need more comfort. Men, we need comfort, but we gotta go seek our comfort from the Lord. You know, the Lord may have like-minded, like, you know, you got brothers and brothers fellowship, but at the end of the day, like I was saying, and I've been saying, you know, we all walking through the spirit. That's what brings the brotherhood together. But at the same time, it's like your trial, your hour in temptation, you gonna have to, you know, like for instance, demons don't come amongst the brothers when you at camp or whatnot. But I believe demons can jump on brothers. I've seen it, and I'm gonna rephrase because I literally watched some spiritual stuff happen, and it was during a fellowship, and you know I recognize another brother recognizes. So I seen the spirit. So the Lord can do whatever He want. But for the most part, like when brothers is in the spirit or at camp or doing lessons, Satan Satan might try to come through. You know, I've seen lights turn off. I've seen, you know what I mean, like outbursts. You know, when brothers outside of the camp, you know, like you say, you got that what's that word? What we'll call it, the alcohol demon or whatever, the wine demon, you know, the it ain't slothful, but I can't. Salaki, I'm just waking up. I'm trying to get this out. I supposed to did it like yesterday or this morning, and just not in the spirit trying to get this off because there's so many things is running through my mind. But you know, again, I've seen certain things in this truth. I know I haven't seen anything compared to what the men that came before me, you know what I mean? But I know this thing real. And the thing is, what the blessing is, because the blessing is to be around like-minded brothers and individuals. And this is not to shake nobody's faith. The Lord gonna shake your faith if it's shaking at all. We all about to have a faith shaking experience. You know, again, I was thinking about the elder brother. He was going into how, you know, pretty soon it's going to be only jobs where too many people ain't going to want to do these jobs. I've done jobs like that all my life. The thing is, I got a job like that to a degree, you know. And the thing is, it's not the worst job. If you know, I said I kind of liked it. But the thing is, the mentality of people. You know, again, it's a union job, yet still you got everybody playing Lone Ranger because everybody trying to see, you know, the company basically, you know, it's like how I look at how like the elites did the world, you know. They pretty much got the world fighting against each other while they doing what the fuck they want. And that's what this company doing. And I can recognize it for what it is because this ain't my first union job. You know, they ain't make me jump for joy. I was grateful to just not have to go look for another job. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I was thinking about something he said because he was saying, you know, not only was we going to have to hold on to the fact that you might have to do a job that you normally wouldn't do or a very hard job, you're going to have to compete with people for that job. On top of the fact, you're going to have to hold to your integrity because certain people is going to, you know, be willing to do certain things while as opposed to certain people, well, not certain people, us as believers, we're held to a certain standard. We can't just do everything that everybody does. This is the definition for integrity. It says integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. You know, the scriptures talk about be upright as the Most High is upright. You know, no, Salakia. It says be ye perfect as the Most High is perfect. You know, which when you go into that word perfect, it means upright. You know, having morals and standards. You know, it means doing what is right even when no one is watching and keeping your actions consistent with your words and values. So you can't be 1 foot in the truth and 1 foot out. You know, you've seen individuals like that, and that's why the Lord's been exposing them. You know, it says, I ain't gonna get into all of this. It says moral uprightness, staying true to ethical standards and refusing to be corrupt. When shit get harsh and hard, you know, again, you don't know. Well, I can't say you don't know, but some individuals don't know themselves. You know, and that's what, like I said again, the beautiful thing about, you know, experience and the Lord teaching you, because when you literally go through certain things, you don't know what you're gonna do until you do it. You know, you got women that said that they ain't gonna never sell no box. That first thing that when they put into a tight situation, sell box. You know, that's what the elder was saying. He said women selling box. Well, you got to remember, women been selling box since the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, at the end of the day, even when times wasn't hard, they were selling it. But just imagine, like how he said, they're gonna be selling it definitely when it's you can't. He said, what they gonna do if they can't, if they doing it now? What they gonna do in that day? And that's and that goes along with as far as other you know, like with men, you know what I mean? You know, when you, he was going into how, you know, you might have to work again a very strenuous job in order to bring food to your table, because again, it's spiritual what he was saying, because I said something recently along the same lines. You know, he broke it down. That's how, you know, the Lord was in, he was in the spirit, because I had just found all that out. You know, I watched this particular economist, and he was saying how it doesn't take all the, you know, work industries to basically collapse. He said all it takes is one, and he was going into the tech jobs. You know, the white collar, like he said, 300,000 a year salary that basically came with a lot of the code and did a lot of the footwork to bring forth a system like this. He said now they no longer need you, so they pretty much 86ing you. Now don't get me wrong, like I said, they're gonna need technicians. Like the job I work at, you know, is dealing with machinery. So the maintenance men, you know, they 24/7 in there. And most places that give a fuck or want to stay in business that ain't complete idiots, because I've seen idiots as well, you know, having, you know, fabrication shops and the machine leaking oil, but then when the machine, now this ain't no fucking $5,000 machine, it's like a $500,000 motherfucking machine, but you ain't got no maintenance in it. Nigga, what kind of crack is you up? The strong kind, you know what I mean? Like, just, I mean, a bunch of weird shit. So I was thinking about that. But, you know, the thing is always being humble, you know, because again, I remember when my next meal, or I remember, that's when me and a guy that I deal with, that we both was homeless, and the Lord saw fit to bless both of us off of poverty. He was the first one to get blessed, but he, you know, he got his own little relationship with the Lord. And I try to explain certain things to him, but you know how some people don't want to know. I remember my little brother, he told me he had ended up getting a job with, you know, driving the bus. You know, he went to school, you know, get a CDL, got a job driving the bus. And I tried to tell him about, you know, the Lord, give him the name at least. Just the name. They don't even want the name. You know what I'm saying? He like, I'm content in my spiritual walk. And I'm like, okay. And that's the last time I think I spoke to it. That's years ago. You know what I mean? Like I got an uncle that's having a funeral, and everybody gonna be mad at me, but I wouldn't give a fuck if you mad. Like, so what? Let the Lord be mad at me. That's why I say what I said about the. You know, I know we all got a zeal, but I'm sure you can never be as mad as the Lord will be mad at somebody that he offended at. Like, sometimes it's best just to be quiet. You know what I mean? I'm learning that. That goes to whomever you is. You know what I mean? Like, it's again, everything that is understood don't need to be explained. That's what they. I mean, you know, Jake already in the spirit like that. You know, I'm coming to the realization of the levels. You know, it is levels. That's why brothers can be amongst other brothers and see this brother don't get this, and that's code. You know what I mean? You know, that truly is code. Because me and the kind of spirit I got, I'm gonna point certain shit out. But like Jacob said, sometimes you lead me into certain their judgment, you know. Because we all got to go before the judgment seat of the Most High. But you know, again, being humble will get you a long way, and holding, having integrity. You know, the Lord want to make sure that you're being loyal, that you're gonna be loyal to the end. You know, like with Abraham. You know, I had a dude yesterday show you how cold it is. A guy I work with. I ain't gonna say my actual real name, but I got a Islamic name. But my name is actually a Hebrew name. So when it came time for me to choose a name, I, you know, automatically just boom. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, I didn't realize that they put both my first name and my last name on my thing, and I was wearing two different things. So I didn't realize. He was like, I thought your name was this. He was like, what that? I'm like, my name. And he like, I'm like, oh yeah, such and such. And then I'm like, I'm not, but my dad was. And so he like, your dad, you are what your dad is. You are what your dad is. Now there was a couple people around. So the spirit, to show you how cold, the spirit, you know, because normally I'd have said something in front of everybody, but now you got to have a little bit more discretion. So I left. I'm like, yeah, and I left, and then I blew back around on him when it was just me and him. And I told him, I said, you know what? To a degree, you are correct. You are exactly what your father is. And I broke it down and said, yeah. So if your daddy's a white man, a so-called white man, then yeah, you a white man. Vice versa as well. No matter what you appear like, but that doesn't stand for. That's not the same when it comes to a person's beliefs or characters or religion. You know, showing you how they listening but not understanding what the fuck going on for real. So I said, first of all, that's just like your daddy might have been a killer and you might be soft as fuck. Or like, for instance, they say LeBron James is actually one of the greatest, which I don't think he's one of the greatest. You know, I never cheer for you, LeBron. You know, and you got to understand, the nigga that he deal with is from our city. He not. The nigga that is like his manager is though. So, you know, we knew about LeBron. You're right. But anyhow, I was like, everybody say he one of the greatest, but did everybody laugh at his son? So just because your father's son, you know, Mike Tyson talk about, he was talking about his own son. He was like, this guy he went on Joe Rogan. It was funny. He went on Joe Rogan. He was like, this guy talking about he want to be a fighter. So him and Joe Rogan started laughing. He was like, this guy here. He said, this man got all the opportunity to go do whatever he want. He said, because basically he paid away so you don't have to fucking fight. Now you try to be a fighter, but you're not really a fighter. You know, that's what you could tell, like Mike Tyson, like Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner don't want to fight no more. You could tell. Because if he was really on it, he wouldn't be, you know, that streaming shit is good to him. And I can imagine, like, they show Blueface, like, one of their streams for, like, a week, him and that one girl, because he got, like, 3 baby mamas, and he exploiting them. You could tell that he got them acting like they fighting and all of those shit. You could tell, like, some of that shit can't be controlled. But a lot of that shit is controlled situations they doing. It's already came out that they trying to control certain things to get views. Which makes sense. I mean, like, that's their bread and butter. But they was like, they made like 25 bands in 1 week. So, of course, you know, why would if I ain't got to fight, I could just sit and, like, what the fuck kind of police? Oh, that he must got a fast car. And a Kia, though? This nigga got like 1,000 cameras on his bitch. Oh, just weird shit out the blue. Salakia. But you know, my point of being, you not your father, you know what I mean? That's why, and I broke it down like Abraham. Abraham father was into the pagan gods. You know, he worshiped, pagan gods. But the true living power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, revealed himself to Abraham, which is the forefather, the patriarch, Without Abraham, you wouldn't have Isaac. Without Isaac, you wouldn't have Jacob. So I explained to him, like, no, that ain't true. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, I didn't just say, oh, it ain't for me. Like, I went and read certain things by myself. I always knew, like, Muslims was fake because, like I said again, it's like the elders say, a jailhouse religion, which they tried to equate to, Yashar Allah. When you have a lot of brothers tell you, I ain't learned that on motherfucking in jail. I learned that on the YouTube, on the internet. But, like I was listening to something that the elder said about vocab or hocab. He said he's trying to find a way to get in there. I mean, which is the elder's opinion. The elder could be absolutely correct. In my opinion, though, just put my little spit shine on it, is literally like his whole objective is to get people to believe that we not, or to get us to believe that we not. You're not that adamant to try to just get in there. And I understand that a genius, a boss, somebody that has, in a position of rule and power, you can't say everything. You really playing chess 24/7. So, I get it, but no, that nigga literally is set up to like come against his truth in order to try to get, so, the elder said, the elder was talking about demons. He said, what he say? He said, this nigga, he said, the food, like, because I think he did a lesson on 2nd Ezra chapter 6. He was talking about the full storehouses being empty. He said, shit, you like the evil cats, what you gonna do? He gonna eat because he work with the elites. He hoping he get in the bunker. So, this is the definition for humble. It says, humble means having a modest or low view of one's own importance, not being proud or arrogant, and recognizing one's shortcomings. That's why the scriptures talk about, examining thyself, because knowledge puffeth up. It says it can also describe a simple, ordinary lifestyle or a low social rank. You can check the full definition. Now, I put humble definition because being homeless humbled me, being locked up humbled me, and working at this job humbled me. When you take time to think about what this devil city said, you will own nothing to be happy. So they trying to humble the, and it was something I was thinking about. Pretty much these devils about to take these people through holy hellfire. I like to use that, holy hellfire. Take these people through hell in order to conform to the new world order. They're about to take you through hell. So the Heavenly Father is about to take the believers through hell. So, again, you're going through hell regardless. The thing is, you're going to get a reward if you go through the hell for Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And I've been here, to be like, damn, but I can see it too. Like, the more we get closer to the end, the more individuals' faith's going to be shaken, the more the Lord going to turn up, all these different things. It says the word humble means feeling less proud, deeply grateful, or lower in status. Again, I made mention of the job, where, this is a union job. They paying this man this wage, and then so union job's supposed to protect against situations like that where they just take away your pay. But yet still that happened. And like I said, again, from observing, it's because like they union weak, and this is not a weak union. You go into how all the union, it's like the camps, it's like the companies, they all spread out, but they all preach the same word that gives power. So these unions that set up all around the country, yet still they getting shit off like this, showing you where we're going. You know what I mean? And like I say again, a lot of people lack integrity. They're showing you that with this whole situation. But no, I wouldn't quit. Now the thing is, I'm a little bit older. Like again, I'm gonna show you something. The job that I was doing, I didn't even intend for this to happen. That was the Lord for real. Like, I actually kind of liked my job. It's just I was like, I can't do all these hours. I've never did these many hours, and we standing and moving and lifting shit for 8 hours, but it can go to 12 hours. And doing that on a week out basis will actually affect the truth. So that's why I said what I said. But the Lord had it where, they the Lord blessed me, put it like that. But they got a younger guy to do it, and he having trouble with it. Now I probably would have stayed doing it, but it's like I see their mindset. They not doing it as long as you got a body doing it, and they don't give a fuck. Instead of if you gave a fuck about the person doing his job, you would actually rotate it. You would do a lot of different things. Maybe you will only do an 8-hour shift for this, but no, they want is they crazy. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the energy in the world. It's a whole just fuck you, pay me type attitude. Now the thing is also, you can't really be proud when you can't control your household. That's a humbling ass experience. You can't really be proud that you got this, I got this good ass job, but then you can't really enjoy it. I was listening to the one elder brother from Dallas. He was he said, I got PTO, but can't use it because they talking about we ain't got time for you to take a vacation. So what's the point of having a system where this shit is a big ass joke that ain't nobody laughing at. You know what I'm saying? That was the whole purpose of comedian off of Watchmen. He was like a play on the Joker. If you didn't get it, yeah. When you take the time to actually, again, I'm a comic head, but some comics are written very well, and Watchmen was one. It was a lot of esoteric, it's a lot of esoteric shit in Watchmen. But point being, I ain't gonna explain to him. I remember the last time I tried to explain something to a brother, he couldn't get it, so I give him the answer. But this man thought he was on the level, you know what I'm saying? And pride, knowledge do puff above. I wasn't trying to be prideful, but I'm like, you can't even see this, so how the fuck? Anyhow, but it was when you go into the characters that they made, they was like corny characters, but they was a play on all different kind of comic books. The Owl was Batman. That's why he had technology, he had money. The most powerful one was Mr. Manhattan, and he was supposed to be like a Superman. Because Superman's like a god. That's why he was able to create life. But the point being, when you really watch that movie and get into the comic, that was one graphic novel that they made a movie out of. It wasn't a series. That's how well written it was. And pretty much, he destroyed the world in order to save it. So that's what these devils trying to do. He might have very well been an insider, because again, when you go into certain things in that movie, it's esoteric. But no, you can't be proud, and like I said again, you can lose your job at any moment. Again, I have been in the situation of not knowing if I'm gonna eat. You expecting these people to bring food because they usually bring it at this time and don't come. All that, man. All that. So again, I find it kind of funny because again, believers and brothers, a brother, that's one thing about that Diamond Gym. Them men that come there to work out with them, and they'll motivate them to actually get through the workout. That's what a brotherhood do. The scriptures talk about a brother's born for adversity. But again, the hour of temptation is going to be designed strictly to test you. And that's why scriptures talk about, suffering. Matter of fact, let me get to, and then I'm about to just rapid fire these scriptures because I did a lot of talking. Yeah, again, I used to be like, crying, why, Lord? What you did? You know what I mean? Why me, Lord? Not realizing who probably forefathers that suffered war before me. Again, brothers don't, a lot of men don't go into what they going through, because they think that shit, going, that's what men do. I heard the elder brother say that as a man, and I actually respect that's actually, been in combat. You know what I mean? He talk about, I seen dead bodies and body parts. You know what I mean? He said, yeah, we was taught that shit will kill you. I used to watch my father disappear. And you could tell something bothering him. This book of Romans chapter 5, and I'm going to start at verse 1, and it reads, therefore, since we have been made right in the Most High sight by faith, we have peace. And that's deep because I was listening to something that Kevin Gates has said, which I always went by what everybody said about Kevin Gates, not knowing until I'm starting to listen to him. Kevin Gates, I don't know what he believed in. He never said nothing about Yahweh. You know, I've heard him say some shit that I think that he's been dabbled in some left-handed shit, but he do say a lot, like, he ain't no dumbass dude. And they always portrayed him as just like a whole nigga gangster. But you can see the growth, and I seen that with like that was powerful. Like, if you go see some of his old interviews, like, he's like, don't touch me. He's a nigga, but now he outspoken. He got a vocabulary, got a lightweight, got some suaveness to him, because he keep a I ain't gonna call him a bitch, but the Bible would call him what, right? He keep a female dog, you know what I'm talking about? So anyhow, but saying all that to say this, he made a quote. He said he went through a lot of hell in his life, He said so he gravitates towards peace, not knowing that ain't no peace here. Ain't no peace. They gonna say peace and safety, but sudden destruction should come upon them. What's that? Ezekiel 7:25. They should say peace, and there will be none. Roughly paraphrased. I know I butchered it, but the point being, but it was deep what he said. Because if you willing to suffer for the elites, you're not willing to suffer for the Lord that's going to give you reward. The elder from Dallas did a lesson that I actually got to go over again, because it was a beautiful lesson, because he was like, nobody talks about this. Like, certain things ain't talked about in the script. Like me, I got fortes. One particular brother always used to talk about how he was the closer, and that always stuck in the back of my mind, because I've never had a niche for certain, certain brothers can go into, all the different breakdowns. Oh, I'm not talking just about the prophetic parts. I've always liked prophecy, and I've always been on the doom and gloom, because doom and gloom will put fear in your heart. But the scriptures say, by fear of the Lord we persuade men. So if you ain't fearful of what the Lord doing in the earth, the elder brother did a lesson about a guy that's dressed up like Chucky. That ain't the only spirit created for vengeance out here. And they ain't completely active yet. They getting active, but you ain't heard about like mass slaughters yet. Like, this shit gonna be crazy. You got motherfuckers that got skills that know how, man, you gonna have a lot of death. And you could tell. What I noticed, you got all these different, like, people of, like, substance or, like, got a position in society making these videos, prepare. Because they know everybody can feel something coming. So I always found it, again, funny that you got individuals that ain't really had no experience. And that's usually typically the young man. That's why we call them young bulls. And I've been one before too. Ain't trying to listen, ready to just, you see that often in a lot of movies. No one I just thought of is Colors. You had the old policeman and the young policeman. He trying to chase after people. He said, nah. He said the young bull chased after the people. I forgot what they was chasing, but he was like, pretty much, they wanted a cow. So, the young bull said, look, we should run down there and chase after the cow, then fuck one of them. And he was like, nah. He said, we're going to walk down there, and fuck all of them. And the point is, to basically be patient. They show that again in Avatar. You had the young guy ready to go and fight and start war, and he like, you need a strategy, man. You know what I mean? You can't just, like the elder said, they say fools rush in. And it was so spiritual, because did what Trump do? He rushed in. Sure, you prove it to you that the Lord, because I've been doing video, but this motherfucker started tariffs, and then the tariffs, we owe more back in tariffs than we did. And then the thing is, want to hear something funny? They got tariffs on, because I guess Canada put tariffs on us while we got tariffs on Canada. But ain't nobody making no money. That shit is just, that's how you know it's all by design. You know what I mean? It says, verse 2, because of our faith, Christ has brought us into this place of undeserved privilege. It said undeserved privilege. This is a privilege to actually be given this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, where we now stand and we confidently and joyfully look forward to sharing God's glory. Matter of fact, let me get this, because when you go into the privilege, scriptures talk about wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time. Strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure. That's a spirit, because I normally, not good at remembering scriptures. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. It's going to be a treasure onto those that really seek and fear and are, entrusted into the faith, that's going to be your treasure. All these material shit, yeah, it's going to, I'm going to be honest. And I'm glad that the Lord had the spirit on me to follow after them. Because certain things that I watched that older brothers did, I said certain shit, I'm like, I ain't follow. But a lot of the stuff that they said, you know, that they was doing and I followed actually benefited. You know what I mean? Not, I said the elders, I don't think not one thing that I followed of theirs benefited. I mean, Slakia didn't benefit. They all like paid out and panned out. But, you know, certain things worked out and I ended up getting, like I said, precious metals, and I had to utilize a lot of them because of the choices I chose to make. As far as, you know, being on my own, I don't have a brotherhood to go to, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, that benefited, you know. And I remember brother saying that. He was like, you know, it talks about wisdom and knowledge, and then he was like, you know, he looked at it like, no, I'm not going to trust or rely on that, you know. I'm going to rely on the Lord. And that's going to be, you know, that's a hell of a, you know, the bond and trust he has in the Lord. That's going to be more precious than whatever precious little metal you might got. Because the motherfucker could take that. You know what I'm saying? You motherfucker try to walk around with an ounce of silver, they go hit you in the head for that. Like, hey, right. Who you going to sell it to? You know, like, I remember I went to the coin shop and the guy was sitting up there. He was like, instead of, you know, he was selling those, what are they, the 90% quarters. Them cost a little bit of money, but he was like, shit. He was like, that way, you know, because again, you got to understand, shit's gonna be chaotic. You really gonna have to have the Lord with you in order to just. The scriptures talk about in 2 Timothy chapter 3, in the last days, perilous times shall come. Going to that word, perilous is calipus, meaning dangerous, fierce, hard. And then you go to hard to bear, hard to do, hard to survive. Motherfuckers can't pay they rent. I watched my electrical bill. We didn't even get the gas go up double, and I knew it was coming, but that shit went double. My shit used to be like $68, $70. That shit is $125. I said, huh? But we all know what times we in. I heard the elder speaking on his gas. He said, shit, that should be $50. You can hear him getting. I try not to speak on it because, we all speak on these things. So we know, we talk about, do people going to be affected by it? But we, as men and women, as believers being amongst these people, we won't have to deal with it too. It says, because of our faith, Christ has brought us into this place of undeserved privilege where we now stand, and we confidently and joyfully look forward to sharing the Most High's glory. And we're going to have to go through different trials and tribulations in order to partake in that. So it's easy, again, to say you got the wherewithal to endure everything when you ain't experienced shit, when you thinking that the brother, you know, again, I never thought I'd be in my situation. I couldn't see nothing, you know, pretty much removing me from the brothers. I'm just glad I didn't get removed from the faith, because we saw that too. That's the most fearful thing. You know, again, I did a visit, or I might have made mention of it. I can't remember if I did a lesson or made mention. I was like, well, damn, you know, that's still mercy, because although you might not be around the brothers, you know, you literally still got the truth. Because once the Lord take away the truth, that's the terrifying thing. You know, again, you had men in the scriptures that was by themselves. When you go into the disciples didn't say it was such and such, and this happened. I mean, it was occurrences like that, but I'm talking about like when they went through their situations, when their faith was completely tested, you know, they hours of temptation, you know what I mean? When they was being crucified, and, you know, yeah, they was by themselves. You know what? I'm gonna look that up on ChatGPT or something. I'm gonna look it up, because it does, you know, you got to go through different histories. Because I had looked up, like, you know, who wrote like some of the oldest history of like the church, so to find out what happened to this apostle, what happened to this disciple, you know what I mean? And I had it written down, but I be writing shit down and forgetting where I put it and all that stuff. But I'm gonna go check into that. That could very well be a lesson, because, you know, probably an edifying one too, because again, I don't think it says it like that. Like, I had a book, it was called Morton and Carpenter, and it went into how all the disciples died. And that's why, again, he was an atheist, and that pretty much, you know, him trying to debunk the fact that there was a Messiah, actually, the more information he came across, actually made him a believer, which that's a powerful testimony. You know what I'm saying? It says, verse 3, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. And endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. So the Lord gonna try you, test you, take you through shit, not to destroy you, but if you're a true believer, to build you up in the faith. You know what I mean? Think about what Paul went through. Think about what Elijah went through before he had to actually battle the prophets of Baal. You know what I mean? The Lord had to have him really believe it's just me and you. It was like 800 some prophets. You know what I'm saying? And he was locked in to the point he talking shit. You know what I'm saying? That's one of my favorite little accounts in the scriptures. One of many, but because I remember the first person that got me to start looking at it like, because sometimes, especially in King James, that's what you got to give the elders their respect and props. To actually I know that was a tedious job. That's why the elder said that with Second Ezra, when they basically wrote out the book. That's tedious because they was going through them different words. So basically getting the understanding of the scriptures that they had to go. And then remember, it wasn't no chat GBT or no internet like that. They had to actually do a diligent search. So, again, being humble, grateful, and ultimately having integrity. That's the individuals that truly are locked in with the Lord, that are of the hopeful elect, are going to have integrity, So let me get some of these scriptures, because again, going back into being humble. This book of Psalms chapter 107 and verse 1, and it reads, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, for he is good, for his mercy endure forever." So we always supposed to give thanks, you know what I mean? And that's part of being or having gratitude. Again, you even in a like the brothers say, I remember hearing it so many times, but then to actually really understand it, or to really understand what you're hearing, is a hell of a thing. He said they're not really losses, but they lessons, because even in losing something or a lesson in something, or something happened, you can get something actually out of it that's beneficial. Like even with that, like it's nothing like the brotherhood. I can say that because I experienced it. But like the elder said, you know what I mean? The scriptures say if they was of us, they would have remained around us. But the brotherhood, again, is to help you endure to your hour, though. And I'm not saying that certain men ain't gonna go through their trial and tribulation, their hour and temptation together. You know what I mean? You got men that's probably gonna get caught up in female. You had enough brothers have visions on this. It was me and another brother. You had brothers talking about it was brothers off in the wilderness with brothers, But your mindset, like the elder, I remember a brother was quoting how the elder said it. I didn't never hear the elder say it. I'm trying to revisit it how the brother said. He said it's not the best way to look at something, but it's how you say it's not the best way to look at something, but it's an honest way to look at it. These scenarios that aren't really comfortable, because again, you see pain and suffering and all that. At the end of the day, it's gonna take pain and suffering. You gotta understand, we live in a very wicked fucking world, and it's only getting more wicked. The blessing I've had, I've been able to recognize certain things through the truth at these different jobs. Like this, again, I had certain jobs for a long time, and that's what made me able to not live above my means and whatnot. And I think the Lord got me a better job. It's better to a degree because the pay is a lot better, but again, they demand a lot more of you too. And then for certain people, like a lot of brothers wouldn't like no job where you got to do 50 and 55. They want you to just devote your whole life and your health to this shit. And I'm like, nigga, I'm cool with just 40 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am not 22 trying to buy me a house and none of that shit. I was looking into trying to get a house at one point because the way it was explained, that's cheaper. The mortgage is cheaper than your rent. But then you come into the understanding the property taxes and all these different things going up, these different electrical bills. You fuck around and come out to the same amount, if not more, you know what I'm saying, after trying to buy this house. Now, eventually, their explanation is it's going to pop. Like right now, they talking about the rent is becoming stagnant. But the brother said that the rent went up. So it depends on who the homeowner is. And it just is a lot of factors to a lot of shit. You should just keep it simple. Like the elders always say, kiss that shit. You know what I mean? That's why we supposed to be just stoics and living simple lives. You know, you want a lot of attention, this might not be for you because you about to get all the attention. You know, the funny part is, like I say, my brother used to make the statement. He said, you want to be that kingpin, take that king size bed. You know, that person that want that attention. Well, we all gonna get a whole bunch of attention. Are you sure you ready? Are you ready for it? You know, I'm gonna end this with and remain faithful and keep your integrity. So this is the book of Philippians. I'm gonna end it with this because again, this is ultimately going back to being, you know, humble, having gratitude or being grateful, and holding on to your integrity. I can't even see the damn. I think this is in Philippians chapter 4. I think the point is verse 6. Salakia. We start at verse 4. Philippians 4:4. Rejoice in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahshua always. And again I say rejoice. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known unto the Most High. And the peace of the Most High, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Yahushua. You know, I was listening to a brother, I believe the elder did it too, but when you pretty much stay faithful to the Lord gonna stay faithful to you. And that's what we banking on. And that, again, I wholeheartedly believe that's why we endure or have had to deal with a lot of our different trials and tribulations. Because at the end of the day, the Lord is building his relationship with his believers. You know, and they're gonna come with ups and downs. But the Lord, you know, like the brothers always say, it's a scripture talk about how wisdom will try you. She'll take you through slippery slopes. You know what I mean? And it makes you think about, like, I was thinking about a particular movie. You know, a lot of them superhero movies where in order to gain those abilities, or, you know, they got to go on a quest, you know, in order to upgrade, in order to be transformed into who they're meant to be. They got to go through some shit. That's what a multitude of movies, you know. So in order to become, you know, the elect, because although I said become, you already of the elect if you chosen, and you know the Lord deliver you in that day. But you know, again, you like the elder was going into that word education and drawing out. You know, he was going into how you know, we heard his word, it comforted us. It was brought back to remembrance. You know, our spirits was like, oh yeah, we remember this. You know, so in order to be who you supposed to be, who the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahshua created you to be, he has to draw that out, and that's by taking you through different trials and tribulations. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole, Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments of your power, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh Bashem Yahshua, you will be destroyed. With that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Allah, Yahweh, Bashem Yahshua, Bashem. Double honors to the elders, to the apostles, whom I learned this truth from. Peace and salutation to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives, as well as their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and Akwat of the listening and learning, Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, whom subscribe to this truth. To you, I say shalom. Until next time, Lord willingly, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yashrala and Mawat Lababah.